In this video we are going to explain how a machine learning model works. This information is necessary for you to perform the tasks required for our study. If you have never heard of machine learning and models before, don't worry, we are going to introduce the concepts you are going to need later on, when performing the actual tasks. So what is a machine learning model? A machine learning model is a computational model built by looking at historical data, so that a computer can learn how to make a specific set of decisions, in a specific context or domain. Don't worry, you don't need to know the details of how such models are built. You only need to grasp how a model is actually used to make such decisions and a little bit about how it works. You can imagine a machine learning model to be a sort of magic black box which receives some data as an input and produces an answer as an output. Let's take a look at a specific example. Now imagine that you work in a bank and somebody built a machine learning model to automatically decide which credit card applications from your customers should be declined, and which should be approved. Using the same diagram we have shown you before, you can now see that for this specific example, the machine learning model receives information about each application as an input, and it provides, for each application, a suggestion on whether the application should be approved or declined. Before we move on, it is important to clarify an important aspect about how a machine learning model makes such decisions. Each application in the credit card example is described by a number of predefined characteristics which we call features. Such features are used by the machine learning model to assign a specific suggestion, which we call a label. Still, we use the credit card application as an example. Here, each application is described by the features you see in this table, for example, credit history, and months since last delinquency. Here the model assigns to each application one of the two possible labels, either approve or decline. For the purpose of this study, you should then think of a machine learning model as an automatic procedure that takes as an input a specific set of objects and, by looking at the values of these objects, assigns to each one a specific label. Now that you have learned what a machine learning model can do and the concept of features and labels, it's time for us to provide more information about how a machine learning model makes such decisions. One way to describe this process is through the use of a set of rules. Using the credit card application example again. The way the machine learning model makes the decisions can be described by the set of rules that you see here. Basically, all the visual representations we are going to use consist of three parts. First, median values for each feature, on the top. Second, rules. Third, legend area, where we explain the meaning of all the symbols and colors we use in the visualization. Please remember that the median values here are useful when using the rules. If you are not familiar with median, don't worry, just think of it as a kind of average value. Generally, we think a feature value is high if it is larger than the median of this feature. And if a feature of an application has a value smaller than median, we think this application has a low value of this feature. In this diagram, we have four rules, R1, R2, R3, and R4, each row is a rule, and each column represents a feature. For each rule in a row, the condition is placed at a specific column according to the feature it uses. As demonstrated here, blue circle represents a suggestion accept, and red means a suggestion of decline. And when an application comes, if its credit history is larger than 72, and months since last delinquency is larger than 12, then it matches rule R1, which suggests accept. And if its credit history is smaller than 57, and months since last delinquency is larger than 12, then it matches rule R4, which suggests accept. Keep in mind, a useful way of reading a rule is that a square on the right side always means the feature of this column is larger than the given value, and a square on the left means that this feature is smaller than the given value. In this tabular view, we can look at a specific column, and find out the rules that contain this feature. For example, if we are only interested in the feature trades with balance, we can locate the column of trades with balance first. Then we can focus on rule R2 for further exploration. On the top of this table, we can also find out that the median for trades with balance is 3. Now that we have explained all the concepts necessary for our study, it's time for us to verify that you have learned them before we can move on to the next steps. As soon as this video ends, please click on the Start Verification button to access the verification test. If you pass the test, we are going to introduce the tasks we need you to perform.